Hola a todos! Today is about reminders. Lots of people are afraid to forget things because we have so much information around us, so many things we want to do, so many things that others ask us to do, that it's hard to keep them all in our brains, in our minds. And that is actually true. I mean, our short-term memory has about 4 or 5 slots to save information. And as the name implies, it's a short-term memory, so it will be kind of deleted after a while. And even if we just change context, like going into another room, our short-term memory may forget things. So luckily, we have developed methods to externalize our thoughts by, for example, writing them down. And that is very practical. I mean, this is why humanity has invented writing. Problem is just writing it down is not enough. You have to find it again so that your kind of thoughts, externalized thoughts, get back to you. And a very common method nowadays is to do that with your phone or with your computer in a way that you type in your task or whatever you want. Yeah, it's usually a task or maybe an appointment. And then at a certain time, you get reminded by sound or a pop-up or something like that. And that does indeed help to reduce cognitive load, to save your memory, to offload your memory. And it gives you peace of mind in the sense of, okay, it's somewhere, I don't have to remember it. But it's also clear that this is a distraction. So you're doing something, you're working on something, and then suddenly something pops up or a sound appears. That means that your attention will immediately be shifted to whatever you're reminded of. That also means that whatever you've been doing will suffer. So today I want to discuss a little bit the advantages and disadvantages of this method and also give you a few alternatives. We often forget nowadays that there are also low-tech variants of reminding ourselves, and this is where I want to give you a few tips and show you how I do that in my everyday life. So let's start with the kind of classical, not really classical, recent way of using pop-ups or sound or something to get reminded. First, maybe a little bit of a differentiation. We also use the same kind of mechanisms for signaling events. So, for example, when you get a new message or when your washing machine is done, we get auditory signals. This is not exactly what I'm talking about in this video because this is something new, something you didn't know before. And again, here you have to choose whether you want the distraction or not. But it's definitely a new information. Whereas what I'm talking about is things that you have remembered, so you have thought about, and you're just afraid that you might not remember later, so you better write it down so that later you have the same information. So, we can use the same mechanisms with pop-ups or sounds to remind us of certain things. And I think it makes most sense when these are issues that are tied to a specific time. So, for example, an appointment, a meeting. This starts at a specific time. And so I want to be reminded maybe 10 minutes before. And here the distraction is actually a benefit. This is what I want. I want to be able to work until more or less the meeting starts, but a few minutes before I want to be taken out of my current context so that I have the time to think about what's going to happen in that meeting and prepare my mind for the next situation. So distraction is actually a good thing in that situation when you want to go, when you have a meeting. But these mechanisms are also often used in situations that are not exactly tied to a time. So, for example, I want to remember to take out the trash. That is not really tied to a certain time. So I could actually do it now if I had the time and if I wanted to do it. But maybe I don't have the time right now. I want to do it later. But when? it's not really clear when is a good time to get reminded. Will it be in an hour or in 2 hours? I don't know exactly what I'm going to do in 2 hours, and if I will appreciate this distraction, if I will be prepared to take the trash out then. And often these reminders don't even work very well, because if I say, okay, in 2 hours, and in 2 hours I'm in the middle of something, my phone pops up with this reminder, I will just shut it off, and maybe in this way even forget what I wanted to do originally, or I might postpone the reminder, and then I have the same problem again an hour or two later. So that doesn't really work very well. So I think these really signals help very well with a specific time, but if you have to guess the time, it's kind of awkward. There's also additional evidence from science that after a certain time, if you have too many of those pop-ups, sounds, whatever, you will ignore them, so they won't help. So let's look into the analog world, what we can do maybe without this technology. Many times we don't even have to put ourselves reminders, because our environment is a very strong reminder. So for example, the trash, honestly, sooner or later I will smell it. So if I really forget it, my environment will remind me of doing this. Another thing that is not exactly environment, but it also comes from my personal way of doing things, is habits. So if I know that Mondays after breakfast I will take out the trash, I don't have to write it down, because I will do it. It's something that I just do regularly. So when we have these reminders in our environment, we can actually leverage that and add a few specific reminders to the environment. And my personal favorite trick is to use a slipper. I have lots of slippers around. So I just use a shoe to point it into the direction of where I wanted to do something. So with the trash, I would take a shoe, put it somewhere close, like nearby, but pointing towards the trash. And then I would know later when I get there, oh, there was something to do in this direction, and I look there and I see, oh yeah, there was the trash. Or it also helps when you have something to do in a certain room. As soon as you enter the room, you usually know what you have to do, but maybe you have no reason to go into that room. So maybe I have opened a window to let in some fresh air, and I'm afraid I might forget to close it, and then it will get cold. So I might position a shoe in front of the room. So when I pass in front of the room, I will see, oh, something has to be done in there, and I just have to open the door and I will know immediately what it was. So I love this shoe trick because it's, with the direction, it usually tells you where to look, and then you see the object and it's all clear. And it's really not a lot of effort to take a shoe and put it there. If you don't have so many slippers around as I have, other things you can use is, for example, a watering pot. It also has a direction, which is nice, so you can put it somewhere to point where you have to do something. Other things you can do is to use certain items that are connected to what you want to do. Let's say I want to bake something. I want to make cookies. Then I would maybe take out the bowl from the cupboard, even though I'm not doing them right now, but put it somewhere where I'll see it later, and then I see the bowl and say, oh yeah, there were the cookies. Or when you, for example, you have emptied something, so you've eaten the last piece of cake and you want to buy more, you can just leave the empty packaging lying around. Of course, you could also put it on a shopping list if you have one, but maybe it's not close by, or you don't have a shopping list or whatever, then just leave that lying around for a while, of course. If you intend to go shopping in like 3 weeks, then it's not a good idea. But for a short time, it really helps to just leave that lying around, and you will remember. So I really like these, using my environment. The advantage is clearly that you're not taken out of your task. So when I pass and see a shoe, if I'm really, really concentrated, I can just ignore the shoe. But but it's still there. And it's also there in the context. So when I'm here working and I get this reminder of taking out the trash. It's like, what? Why would I do that? I have to get up, have to get to the kitchen and so on. But when I'm in the kitchen already, I might just as well really do it because I'm already there. So you get it in the context. You get it in a context where it might fit. And that is much better than just getting some sound that is completely disconnected from what you have to do. There are also a few problems with my environment tricks. Well, one is somebody might clean your reminders away. So if people don't know about your shoe trick, they might just take the shoe and put it somewhere where it belongs. Or with your empty packaging, people might just clear it away or throw it away. So of course it has to, you have to make sure that your reminders aren't taken away. So in our household, it's clear that if there's a shoe somewhere standing around, don't touch it. We know that this might be a reminder, or it's very likely to be a reminder. And so that's okay in our household, but it might not work everywhere. And of course you are creating so the whole trick is basically to create a certain disorder so that you will realize it and you want to change that into order. If of course your whole environment is not very orderly, it may not work. So when I think of certain desks that I've seen in my life where it's just chaos everywhere, it's hard to position a reminder because the desk in a way is full of reminders if you want, or none at all. So it has to be a contrast to what your environment usually looks like. Otherwise you will just not perceive it. Okay, so we have two mechanisms up to now. So we have the phone or calendar beeping or popping up. We have the environment that we can enhance a little bit with our personal reminders. The third thing that you can do is, in a way, not to have specific reminders, but to have one central place where you store all the information that you want to retrieve later. That can be on paper, it might be a notebook, or it can be electronic, like a note-taking program, or a to-do list, like Todolisto, obviously. Something that you really work with. So that's the important part. If you just write it down and never look at it again, well, you don't even have to write it down, you'll forget it. So it must be really an active tool, something that you're using every day. So for example, Todolisto is in a way the first I open and the last I close when I start and end my working day. Or actually even on the weekend the same. So it opens with the browser and it gets closed with the browser, and this is the tool that I've opened anyway. The advantage of having this central storage is that you have full control of when you want to get information. So you can work on something, you can finish it, and then when you're done, you can take the time, go to your central storage and look what else there is to do. So there is not this like being always reminded from outside. It's your own decision to look at what else there is to do. What it also helps to do is to have a better overview. You can, of course, look into your calendar. You can also open your phone and see what reminders there are for today, maybe. But, well, the point is that you don't have to do that, that they will remind you at the right time. So I like to have this overview, like in the morning, first thing is looking at the to-do list. So I know what are the things that are really important today, what are the things that I might do later, just to, get an idea of what's happening today without having to wait that at 10 o'clock something will remind me of doing something. So we have three mechanisms. We have the pop-up sound thing, we have the environment, and we have the central storage that is more passive, where you go to get the information that you want. Now, which of the three works is first of all a personal decision, but it also depends on what you want to do. So I just want to give you a few parameters that you can keep in mind of when you want to, in which situation you want to use which reminding mechanism. So the first parameter is the recording or the situation in which you record your information. It has to be easily available and it has to be quick. Because usually when you want to write down something, when you want to store information, that means you cannot react to it directly. So if I were willing to get out the trash right now, I wouldn't have to write it down at all. So that means I might be short of time. So it must be something that you have always there and where it is easy to put things in. So the shoe is the absolute winner here, for me at least. I always have, as I said, slippers around. So it's just take it, put it somewhere, and that's it. A phone is, of course, something that you usually have close by. I don't find it too easy to type things in. That's already kind of too slow for me. Well, it depends on the situation and on how important the information is. But if it's really something very short term, this is already kind of a hurdle for me. But again, this is a very personal thing for everybody. Second thing is, what is the situation in which you want to retrieve your information? It should be something that is perceivable in a good moment. And we've discussed that it may be hard to guess the right moment. In the environment, your clues in the environment may be easier to get in a good moment, and also your central storage. But it's not only about being able to perceive it, but also to interpret it. And here the shoe has slight disadvantages. Of course, your shoe doesn't tell you exactly what it was you want to do. It just gives you a clue, and most of the time your environment will tell you the rest. But it may also be that why did I put that shoe there? But the same happens to me even in with text. So if I write something down, sometimes in my to-do list I'm like, what was that about? So it may even happen with notes. When you write something down explicitly, it may not be fully clear to you at a later time what you meant by that. And the third point you should consider is the control. So with the sound and pop-up mechanisms, you basically pass control to a device, or in a way to your former self. So the person I was 2 hours ago is basically dictating me something, is controlling my life in a way if the pop-up goes up right now. So it's a bit, it's hard to control. Sometimes that may be nice. Maybe you want sometimes to make sure, I want this to happen in 2 hours. So you can force yourself to do that. And sometimes you don't. And then we have the perception, which is kind of in between control-wise. So you can ignore the clues in your environment for a certain time. But they will also annoy you, at least they should, because, well, if they are good clues, they will annoy you. Otherwise, you won't perceive them. But it's easier to ignore. So it's kind of in between. They are forced on you because they are in the environment. But it's easier to ignore a shoe or an empty packaging than a sound coming out of your phone. And the third one is, of course, the maximum control, to really go to your place, wherever you store your central information, and make the decision when you want to retrieve your information. So it's really very individual, and I think it makes sense to try a little bit. My personal strategy is that I use the sound and pop-up for everything that really has a specific time attached to it, especially for meetings. I love my shoe and other things in the environment for rather short-term things in the household, like things that are supposed to happen on the same day. And for everything else that is a bit more long-term, everything that needs more explanation, that goes into Todo Listo. And that's my personal strategy. At this moment, I might change it sooner or later, but this is what I do. So I wish you fun trying different strategies. Do try the shoe. I really advise you to try the shoe. It's so valuable. And I hope to see you next time. Hasta luego.